What's up, everybody? I'm Toad. I'm back. This is Better Off Dead. January 12th. We're bouncing back a little bit. Yesterday started off looking really bad. College basketball has just been killing me, man. I mean, 2-4 yesterday in college basketball. Obviously, it should have been better than that. It should have been at least 3-3, which I'll briefly discuss. I don't want to take too long here this morning, but Sunday it is a shorter card to discuss at least. But then finished off with 3 wins at the end of the night there to get a 6-4 day, so I'll take it. I mean, it's a win. Wanted it to be better, but it's certainly not bad. 4-0 sweep of the non-college basketball sports yesterday with NBA, NHL, and NFL. 4-0 over there. College basketball, 2-4, man. I mean, it started off nice with the Cornell win, easy win, under the radar game there. Nobody's paying attention to the Ivy League, but I am, and I thought that was a spot where you could come in and take advantage of Columbia being overrated. So I did that. Then I don't know what happened to Cincinnati. Cincinnati and Kansas played one of the lowest scoring games I've ever seen. I mean, it wasn't as low scoring as that like Wisconsin tournament game, which I think was against Pitt maybe, or Xavier, I forget. Like years ago they played a tournament game that neither team got even hit 50 in the game. It wasn't quite like that, but it was 54-40 or something was the final. 40 points for Cincinnati, really. I mean, the game got super ugly, which should have been a Cincinnati-style game. The game was within 1 point with like 7 minutes left, I'm pretty sure. Cincinnati was winning for most of the first half. Then they're down 1, so it's like, all right, this is going to be a close finish probably. Then Cincinnati decides to not score for like 6 straight minutes, and they only scored, I think, 2 or 3 more points in the entire game. I mean, that's just totally ridiculous. Both teams had terrible shooting performances. So I was right that Kansas was going to have a down game. It's just Cincinnati didn't step up at all and couldn't do it. Couldn't do anything at the end of that game. It just fell apart. Terrible. Then Texas Tech, if you saw that game, I mean, that when it came down to it, that should have been a winner. And Texas Tech can't hit their free throws at the end of the game. They missed 2 or 3 free throws right at the end that were crucial free throws. They were in a situation where they were being intentionally fouled because they had possession and a lead. So you're sitting on a -1.5 ticket there. Of course they should get over that. I mean, they're winning by 2, 3. They're getting intentionally fouled. If they make a couple of those free throws, they're up 4 or 5, and the game is over. Instead, they leave the door open because they miss so many free throws. It goes into overtime. And then they wind up losing in overtime. Even though they were winning again in overtime, I think by 4 points with like a minute to go in overtime, and they blew that too. Unbelievable for Texas Tech. So, yeah, I was just not having it. I was not having a good day. And then what was the other play that I had yesterday? I had one play that I think got destroyed. I can't even remember. Oh, and by the way, of course, Winthrop, the first play that I decided not to play and left off my card. Easy win for Winthrop. Isn't that just great? And then what was the other college basketball play I had yesterday? I don't even remember. I know I had the late one won with St. John's. St. John's was looking like they weren't going to get there either, and they pulled away late and did finish it off. So they they at least did do it from. Oh yeah, Austin P. That wasn't that was not a horrible like loss either. There, Austin P. They were right in that game. The game was close pretty much the whole way, and then they lost at the end, and I think gave up some intentional fouls at the end. So, of course, yeah, I lose that one too. St. John's did get there for me, though, as they were winning most of the game, but it was by a close margin. It got a little bit close again in the second half after they had started pushing the lead up. But then they were able to, they had a really nice finish to the game. It wound up winning by double digits, which is not what I saw happening once that game got down to it. But I'll take it. That was a win for me. It wound up being a win that was by more than I expected. And then, of course, I won on the Houston Texans. That wound up being an easy win on Houston. Justin Herbert, though, 4 interceptions in one game, and he had 3 the entire season. I didn't expect that to be the case. But, you know, Houston's defense is good. I think I mentioned on my show that they do at least ball hawk. So there was a chance of maybe getting a couple of turnovers in there from a very ball protective Chargers team there, but man, that was more turnovers than I expected. I didn't expect Houston to blow them out in that game. I thought it was going to be a low scoring, close win for Houston. Man, crazy, but obviously I will certainly take the win on that one. Hockey, both wins got there easy. 5-0 Ottawa win, and then Calgary was down 1-0 early, and then the Kings never scored again. And Calgary played one of those ugly Calgary-style games. They wound up winning 2-1. And then what was the other? Oh, Miami Heat, roller coaster of a game with the Miami Heat. They were up almost 20, I think, in the first half as it got towards halftime. I think they were winning by nearly that going into the third quarter. Then they had a horrific third quarter, and all of a sudden they're only up 4, and I need them to win by 3. I'm like, this is insane. Like, you got to be kidding me. And then it was hanging around somewhere between like 4 and 8 for a while, and I'm like, I can't believe Miami's going to blow a second straight, like, insurmountable late lead for me like they did the other day against Sacramento. But no, they actually turned it back on and wound up winning by double digits in that one. So hit on that one. Let's move to today, man. Yesterday was a win. I'm actually up over the last week, even though I think I'm slightly down on the year right now. I think it's not by much, though. So hopefully we can get back to it here. Let's look at college basketball here first. It's a Sunday college basketball slate. Some of the bigger games up. Nebraska's at Purdue. Purdue, this is at noon Eastern. Purdue up from 7.5 to 8. 61% of tickets, only 50% of the cash. I mean, Purdue definitely going to be public in this game. Not a game I really want to actually have anything to do with, though. And Purdue's coming off, I mean, they're just on a roll right now. They just keep winning. They keep beating these inferior opponents here in the Big Ten. Maybe Nebraska's going to be a little bit of a step up from Minnesota, Northwestern, and Rutgers. I mean, Nebraska's better than those 3 teams, so Purdue will be stepping up in class for this game at least, but it's not like they didn't battle test themselves earlier in the season. They do have a win over Maryland at home, who's the best Big Ten team they faced so far. They did lose to Penn State on the road, which is a game I was on Penn State in that one. I thought it was a bad spot for Purdue in that one. I'm not going to touch this game, though, but Nebraska, there is the possibility that Nebraska plays this game pretty close and gives them some headaches. Nebraska did just lose a long win streak they had there. They had a nice win over UCLA. I faded them in the next game in Iowa. Wound up getting it done for me with a huge comeback and then win in overtime. So Nebraska did play that game into overtime, and it is a second straight road game for Nebraska. Obviously, this is not going to be an easy task for them, but they will show up focused for this, I would have to imagine. Not going to play it. Michigan State at Northwestern. I'm tempted to play Northwestern, although this one is not going to quite make the cut for me. But, man, Michigan State is so public here. Down from 3.5 to 2 now, so it looks like money is coming in on the Northwestern side, driving that line down, even though the public is all over Michigan State. 80% of the tickets, only 77% of the cash. This is also at noon, so you're getting a ton of the public tickets. It looks like some of the bigger money bets are coming in, taking the points with Northwestern. But the problem I have with this is that I actually think Michigan State continues to be underrated. So even though the spot, I would probably say, yeah, the spot probably does make sense to, like, take a shot with Northwestern if you actually do want to play this game, but it's not going to make the cut for me. I mean, I do lean that way still, but Michigan State is really good, and they're way better than Northwestern is. I think Northwestern has kind of overperformed a little bit to start the season. We've seen them start to falter getting into Big Ten play here. Michigan State, I mean, we know what they do. They battle test themselves early in the season. Their only losses are against Kansas and Memphis, who are both really good teams. They don't have a win against any like great team, but of course they're not facing a great team here at Northwestern. But they are coming off a blowout win of 34 points over Washington, coming off a big win over Ohio State on the road too. So you're coming off those 2 big wins, and then maybe you consider Penn State to be a little bit of a bigger game up next. I mean, they're ahead of Northwestern in the standings. They're a bit of a better team than Northwestern. So maybe it's possible Michigan State does overlook this game. And when you win by 34 points like that, and you're coming off a big win over Ohio State the game before that, you are probably going to be feeling a little bit cocky and probably maybe are feeling a bit plump and gay in this case here. So that is possible. So again, Northwestern, I'm not going to say that Northwestern doesn't make sense here. I just think that the line may be a little bit short, even though, of course, it almost looks like a trap. So it looks way too easy to take Michigan State, which is what the public is doing. But I just think Michigan State is a little bit better than what the odds makers are giving them credit for in this one here. Northwestern, they're looking for a Big Ten win, which they don't have since they had that nice win over Illinois. But, of course, that was a big-time step-up game for Northwestern, playing their bigger brother in the state of Illinois there. And then they lost to Penn State and Purdue once official conference play started. So they are still looking for their first conference win. And this is going to be their first conference home game since the start of that. So they probably will be showing up for this game. I mean, Michigan State's coming in there. So it would not surprise me if Northwestern does wind up winning the game. Let's just put it that way. And that is the way that I would lean in that game still. JC, what's up, man? Matthew, who's Matthew? Is Matthew in here? I don't see anything else in the chat, JC. Just you, or are you talking to the voices in your head? I don't know. All right, pretty much only hitting the big conference teams here. I mean, the other conference games aren't really particularly interesting. Although I guess I will talk about a couple of the games that are a little bit later, just because I think there are some sandwich-looking spots there. Washington is at Michigan now, so Washington's going into another unfamiliar venue here, man, because Washington's new to the Big Ten, so they're making the trip here out to Michigan, and they got blasted by Michigan State, and Michigan's not going to be easier, man. The two Michigan teams, they're both really good. They're probably the top two teams in the Big Ten this year. I mean, it's them, Illinois, and then I guess maybe Purdue is still in the mix there, but these Michigan teams, man, and Michigan is actually really good, and I think Michigan continues to actually be underranked again. And Washington having to play both Michigan teams back-to-back on the road like this. Not familiar with this travel here, of course, because they're new to the Big Ten. So that's a very difficult spot for them, having to go to Michigan. But they are coming off a 34-point embarrassing loss. So if Washington is going to show up focused and step up in a game that is an unfamiliar venue, it may be this game. So I would actually probably lean to taking the points with Washington in this one if I was going to do it, but I'm not going to. Michigan, they're coming back from going out to the Pacific Coast, and yeah, they beat USC, and they kind of got away with that one there, and I lost on USC plus the points there. That game was close in the final minute or two of that game, and they wound up looking like a runaway, but it was pretty close at the end. Michigan then finished the Pacific Coast leg, going to unfamiliar venues out there too, because those are new Big Ten teams as well, and they beat a ranked UCLA and pounded them by almost 20 points, and now they're coming back home from that. It is possible they're feeling pretty high on themselves after that win over UCLA, man, so I would not want to play Michigan in this one either. I would probably, like I said, I would probably lean against them, and their travel spot is actually worse because they're coming back from the Pacific Coast. Washington is already in Michigan, so they're just staying in Michigan, going up to Ann Arbor, so Michigan is laying a huge price in this game, but it is probably warranted. I mean, they are a significantly better team, but they are down from 14.5 to 13.5. 72% of the tickets on them, 73% of the cash on Washington. So it looks like Michigan is getting the public action, and the line is kind of moving in the direction of Washington. Like I said, actually, if you put a gun to my head, I actually do agree with taking the points with Washington in this one because of the spot that Michigan is in, but I don't want to try to play Washington either. Playing, in the unfamiliar venue like this. So, but that's really that's the biggest negative for Washington is that it's that they're not familiar with a travel spot like this. So, Dusty May is a great coach. Yeah, I mean, he's been doing some pretty good things, man. Matthew, what's up, man? Wait, JC, how did you know that Matthew? Oh, can you see? You can see who the viewers are, I guess, right? JC is like he's a Fed or something. He knew Matthew was gonna comment before even seeing the comment. I don't know what's going on here, man. I'm a little bit scared right now. JC, you're terrifying me. Stop it. All right, next up is going to be one of my plays. Colorado minus 1.5. I mean, you think Northwestern looks like a Toad special, which it does kind of look like one. My two plays are still Toad specials, and this is one of them where you got the situation where you got a home favorite who's an unranked team against a ranked road opponent. And I think West Virginia's overrated right now, man. Colorado's not very good, but West Virginia's overrated, and I don't like the spot that West Virginia is in here. As West Virginia went on the road and beat Kansas. I mean, that was a huge win, obviously. Huge upset win as an underdog. Came back home, and in a letdown spot, sure, it was a bad spot for them, and they caught me because I took the points with Oklahoma State there, but man, Oklahoma State is a bad team right now. West Virginia was able to handle them. That one doesn't really impress me. Then West Virginia did crash back down to earth, and I said they would, as Arizona was actually a road favorite. That was one of the only scenarios I've ever seen where you had a road unranked favorite against a ranked home opponent, and that was the case there. The odds makers are telling you, hey, Arizona is actually the better team over West Virginia to such an extent that they're actually favored at Morgantown. And that's what happened, and Arizona beat them up, man, by almost 20 points. I think that's a type of spot, that's the type of game that's going to send West Virginia crashing down to earth, in my opinion, because they were on a huge win streak. They'd actually beaten Arizona on a neutral earlier in the season as well. And yes, I know they have this win against Gonzaga, in there, but that might wind up looking like more of an outlier once the season ends. I'm not saying West Virginia's a bad team, but Ken Pom has them like in the 40s, so they're not a top 25 team. They did lose on the road to Pitt. So on the road, their play is a little bit more suspect with a really bad loss to Pitt. And then, Pitt's not a bad team, but that's a really ugly loss by 20 whatever points. And then, I know they beat Kansas on the road. Kansas just has they have weird games where they just have bad performances, man. Like yesterday, again, they did, even though they still beat me. But West Virginia, I'm not sold on them. And I think this loss to Arizona is a type of loss that when you're rolling and you're winning so many games in a row like that, and then you finally lose, you're like not used to it anymore at that point. You're not used to losing. You don't know how to recover from it. And now you have to go out on the road into elevation, into Colorado. And Colorado's new to the Big 12, or they used to be in the Big 12, actually, like probably about a decade ago. But this West Virginia team, maybe even longer than that, I don't remember. I remember a long time ago they were, before they went out to the Pac-12. But now they're back in the Big 12. And this West Virginia team is not used to having to travel into Colorado and play in elevation, man. So this is going to be a very strange travel spot for them. And it's in a potential hangover spot with that win streak breaking loss, which is, like I said, the type of loss that you can tend to lose twice. And then after this, they have to turn around in a few days and play Houston and Iowa State, who are two of the best teams in the Big 12. I don't care if Houston's ranked 12. If you look at Ken Pom, you look at actual, like the numbers, the metrics, Houston is a top 5 team in the country still, man. So that's a major look-ahead spot as well there. So I don't like this spot at all for West Virginia. I'm going to play Colorado in this one, even though I know Colorado's not even good. And Ken Pom has them probably in like the 90s ranking-wise. Ken Pom has West Virginia 1-point win in this one. So it's in that margin of error where it's basically still like pick the winner. I'm going to pick the winner here, and that winner is going to be Colorado, baby. Colorado, they don't even have a win yet in Big 12 play as a newcomer to the Big 12. 2 of those losses were on the road, although Arizona State was a former Pac-12 foe there. So they were still familiar with going to Arizona State, but still a road game. They lost that game. They had to travel from Arizona to Florida. I mean, what the hell is that? Having to go to UCF. So that wasn't a very easy spot either. And they lost that one. And are you really going to blame them for losing at home to Iowa State? I'm not. I actually played Colorado in that game, and they pushed for me on the +10. Colorado, I mean, they do still have that win over UConn in there, but that's more of an outlier, sure. Colorado's not that good a team, but West Virginia is heavily overrated right now, and I think Colorado, they're probably exactly what you think they are. They're a team that could pull off some surprises, but they're not great. So they're still a top 100 team. That's what you can say. And then this is also a situation where, I forget, according to the Ken Pom rankings here, let me see. West Virginia... he's only got them at 48. He's got West Virginia, very slow tempo, 322nd in tempo. He has their offense pretty bad at 94th in offensive efficiency. Good defensively, though, but also 66 in luck, so that doesn't look very good either. That means West Virginia's been overperforming, and like I said, they are, which is why they're overranked right now fairly substantially. Colorado, I know, they're way down here. Actually, they're at 82. I thought they were in the 90s. Colorado, not that great really either on either side of the ball. I mean, they're not great either on offense, sure. So both teams are better defensively than offensively. But Colorado, they play a bit faster than West Virginia does. West Virginia plays that ugly, very slow tempo style. So this could be a bit of a tempo collision here too, where Colorado is kind of near like mid-tier tempo. So Colorado's probably going to try to speed this game up, and that is not to West Virginia's liking if they're able to do that. So there's a little bit of a tempo clash here too, and the home team a lot of times wins out in the tempo battle and can control the tempo. So I do like that as well, although it does have Colorado somewhat lucky as well at 114th in luck index, but not close to as lucky as or as overperformance as West Virginia is. Give me Colorado. That's what I'm going to do in that one. And again, the market looks all over Colorado. Flipping them from a 2-point dog to a 2-point favorite. It's going through the 2, man. So if you like Colorado, the 1.5s have been disappearing. I found one this morning. Right before I did this video, I found one, but it looks like they're mostly 2s. I wouldn't disagree with laying 2 either. I don't know if I would want to lay more than 2. You might want to look money line. They got 85% of the cash on them, with 52% of the tickets coming in on West Virginia. I mean, obviously, the public sees this. They see a road ranked underdog. Obviously, they're going to think there's value there and be like, oh, that's crazy. Like, let me take the couple of points with West Virginia. Are you kidding me? When it's not even just pick the winner, but you're giving me points. It looks way too easy to take West Virginia. The spot is pretty bad, as I just pointed out. In Colorado, like I said, they're still looking for that first win. Coming off a couple ugly losses. Now they're back at home where they should be able to, I think, get it done in this one against a weaker opponent than the other team that they faced on this floor, which is Iowa State. I mean, almost everybody's weaker than Iowa State. So give me Colorado. Nate, what's up, man? Yes, Colorado. Oh, Toad Colombo. I thought you were saying Colorado. Toad Colombo, yeah. You're just going to keep guessing Italian names until you get my actual name. My actual name isn't even Italian, though, because the Italian is on my mom's side. So if you guess my mom's Italian name, I will actually say that you're correct. And it's fine because it's not even my name. So nobody's going to even be able to make that tie. So we're a bit removed from that. Then we got Mercer in Western Carolina. I will say, I think Mercer is in a bit of a bad spot here. They just lost a win streak against East Tennessee State, which East Tennessee is one of the best teams in the SoCon, it's looking like right now. One of the top teams, really. Furman is still probably, it's still probably Samford and Furman, but East Tennessee is probably a top 4 or so team in this conference right now, I would say. So that's a big game. They played tough, and they only lost by 2. Now they have to go out on the road to Western Carolina, who's one of the least teams in this conference, but at least I think they're better than VMI and the Citadel. So they're probably at least better than the military academies here at the very least. And who does Mercer have up next? Yeah, they got Samford up next in 3 days, and then Wofford, UNC Greensboro, Furman. So a bunch of the more staple teams of the conference coming up next. So I think this is a sandwich spot here, man. I mean, that's a big look ahead to Samford as well. Coming off a tough, close loss to East Tennessee. I would look to take the points with Western Carolina in this one. I assume they're an underdog because they're pretty bad. Western Carolina is still looking for their first conference win, but they did play a somewhat difficult out-of-conference schedule. I mean, Wake Forest, Florida State, Marquette. I mean, those aren't easy. Tennessee, I mean, obviously that's not easy. And in conference play so far, they played Furman and Samford already, so they played the top 2 teams in the conference and lost to them. And then on the road to Wofford. I mean, not expected to win any of those games, so if I was going to play this one, I would look to Western Carolina. I considered doing it. Mercer's up from 4 to 5. Now, it looks like some money is coming in to drive that line up on Mercer, but I would take the points with Western Carolina in that one. And my last play, official Toad play, is Penn State +2. You knew it was going to be that, man, because I'm fading these road ranked teams here. Oregon, I think, is a little bit overrated as well. They're good. They're probably a top 25 team, I would say, but I don't think they're the 15th best team. I think they're just overrated right now, man. They're just overvalued right now. Looking at conference play, yeah, they beat Maryland at home. That was a nice win, but Maryland, that was not an easy spot for Maryland to have to go out to the Pacific Coast and play Washington and Oregon back-to-back like that in spots that they're not used to playing. Oregon, when they played, teams in the Big Ten, they got crushed by Illinois. Illinois is good, though. Like, teams that have been in the Big Ten for a while, I should say. And then they went on the road and they beat me. I thought this was a bad spot for Oregon, man. Going to Ohio State, not a familiar spot for them. And Ohio State, I thought, was kind of flying under the radar a little bit coming into this game. Ohio State was winning the entire game, and then they lost it on me. I mean, what can you just even say about this, man? I mean, I thought I had it in the bag. Ohio State, I had them, I think, -2.5 in this game or something like that, and they had the thing the whole way. It was almost a wire-to-wire cover, even though they didn't push the lead to a bigger margin than that. But all I needed them to do was cover that small number. They were doing it for the whole game. Then they blew it right at the end. Pretty big win for Oregon, really. Now they're going on the road for a second straight road game to face Penn State. So, again, they're going to an unfamiliar venue. Penn State, kind of a weird basketball venue there, to be honest. Like, some Big Ten teams struggle there. Some, teams that have been in the Big Ten for a long time, I should say. I keep basically saying Oregon's not even a Big Ten team because it just still blows my mind that they are. And who do they have up next, even though it's not for 6 days? Well, they got Purdue. So if they really want to establish themselves as a new member of the Big Ten, that's a big game. Looking ahead to the team that's been the dominant force in the Big Ten the last couple of years, even though Purdue's taken a little bit of a step back. Purdue is still like one of the top 4 teams in the Big Ten, I would say. So this looks like a difficult spot to me for Oregon, man. Having to go into Penn State. Penn State, they've already played a bunch of conference games as well. They're only 2-3 in conference, and they've lost 2 games in a row. They lost to Indiana, which that was not good. Penn State was a favorite in that game, and they lost. Indiana's pretty down this year, man, so I don't know what that was about. I don't know if they even got caught looking ahead to Illinois, but then they went to Illinois, and they got their doors blown off, man. So both of these teams actually lost to Illinois, but Penn State lost real badly to Illinois. So, of course, the public, they're not going to take that into account, really. They're just going to say, oh, well, both teams lost to Illinois. Penn State lost even worse. So, of course, we're still going to take Oregon here. I mean, it looks way too easy to take Oregon in this game, laying only 2 points. Basically, just pick the winner between a ranked team and an unranked team that has a worse record than that. I mean, okay. Yeah, but again, it's all about the situation. In Penn State, I think they're going to be pretty angry, man, even though Illinois is good. But when you lose by almost 40 points to anybody, that is completely embarrassing to any team like this, man. So I think Purdue is going to show up here, man. They're going to I think this is a bounce back spot for them. Remember, they did actually beat Purdue on this floor, so they can compete with basically anybody on this floor on any given day, really. I mean, Oregon, maybe, I don't even know if I would say Oregon's slightly better than Purdue. I don't know which team Ken Palm actually has as the higher ranked team. I think he probably has them both kind of around the 20 or so range. But again, yeah, Penn State's not the better team here, obviously. I mean, they're getting points at home, but in this spot, I think they're in a major bounce back spot, and I think Oregon not in the best spot here. Oregon's down from 2.5 to 2. 61% of tickets look like they're on Penn State. I don't buy that. I mean, I think Oregon is definitely the public team here, but you do see a higher cash percentage on Penn State, which does lead me to believe that Oregon is the public team here because Penn State has more of the cash than the tickets. 78% of the cash on Penn State. And I'm going to agree with that, obviously. I'm taking the points with Penn State in this one. It looks like some of the money has knocked that line down from the 2.5 to the 2. I think Ken Palm has this being a 1-point win for Oregon here. Ken Palm, what has he got going on? He's got Oregon at 26th in the country. He actually has Purdue at 16th, so he has Purdue better than Oregon. And Penn State beat them at home here on this floor here. He does have Penn State down at 51st. Penn State's dropped down a bit in Ken Palm's rankings. He did have them up, I think, in the 30s or 40s for a while. But then Penn State also, they play a really fast tempo at 21st in the country. Oregon, kind of more of a mid-tempo style of game, 144th. So Penn State may try to just speed this game way up and try to throw Oregon a bit out of their element here. Penn State, I mean, they're at least a pretty competitive team. If you look at their defensive and offensive ratings here, yeah, they're worse than Oregon, but it's not significantly so. And Oregon's been one of the luckiest teams in the country, too, at 18th in the country. So Ken Palm has them as being one of the more overperforming teams at this point in the season. Even though, yes, they also have faced a very difficult schedule. That is also true. Penn State has not. As we can see, they faced one of the weakest schedules. Concerns me maybe a little bit, but not enough. Like, I think the spot is right for this one. Hopefully Penn State can get this game sped up and going completely haywire. Let's take the points of Penn State +2. And then I will just mention real quickly, I do think Little Rock over in the, what conference is this again? OVC, Ohio Valley. Little Rock, I think, has kind of moved around in conferences as well. I would look to fade them in this spot. I mean, they just came off playing Moorhead, man. Moorhead's been kind of a staple of this conference for as long as we can remember, basically. I think they've been in the Ohio Valley for a long time. Even, like, they were the dominant force, like, a while ago, and some teams have moved away from this conference, and Moorhead basically became by far the best team in the conference for a little while. Now they're still pretty much one of the contenders in this conference every year. Little Rock just played them pretty close, played them within 6 points. Coming away from that loss, that's a tough loss. They have to play Southern Indiana, who I think was new to Division I entirely, like last year or something, and they're at the bottom of this conference. Not a very good team. And they got SEMO up next, Southeast Missouri State, who is one of the better teams in this conference as well. So it does look like a sandwich spot to me. It's just, Southern Indiana is just real bad, so I don't know if I really want to try to play this one. I'm not going to, but that's the way I would lean, would be to take the points with Southern Indiana here, the Screaming Eagles. Little Rock down from 7 to 5.5, so the money has come in a little bit against them. 75% of tickets, looks like 98% of the cash. I don't buy that because the line has moved against them, so that is another additional lean there in this undercard here, which they're calling the write-in games. I don't know, but whatever. So those are the that's another additional lean there. Jeffrey, what's up, man? You went blind, then you went head-to-head with me on Iowa State. You know you got lucky on that one, man. Texas Tech, all they have to do is make like probably one of those free throws, and they get the job done there at the end. God damn it, man. That was the most frustrating loss for me yesterday by far. Very, very irritating. I thought it was definitely a bad beat. Again, it looked way too easy to take Iowa State in that one, man. You got away with it. Let me see. What are we going to here? We got NHL. I got one play in the NHL. We don't have a huge NHL card here. Not a whole lot going on in the NHL, really. I mean, I would just be aware of which teams played yesterday, which a lot of them did. I think Seattle, Dallas, and Ottawa, I think both played yesterday. Minnesota and Vegas both played yesterday. I will point that out really quickly. Which other of these teams played? Most teams played on Saturday, so I think Detroit was off, though. So they're playing a team that did play yesterday, Seattle. Tampa and Pittsburgh. I'll talk about that in a second, but both of those teams played yesterday, too, I'm pretty sure. But I actually have a play on that game. And then Carolina, did they play yesterday or were they off? It looks like they were off. I don't know. I can't even see anymore, man, because of my stroke. I can't identify things. And Anaheim, I believe Anaheim also was off yesterday. I don't even know, man. There's also all that crap going on in LA where you got, oh no, Anaheim did play yesterday. They're in Philadelphia. So never mind. I was thinking all that like fire crap that's going on there. Minnesota and Vegas. Let's just look at this one briefly. They both played yesterday. Minnesota. This is the one like really big hockey game today, really. Minnesota played at San Jose and won yesterday, so they're only traveling from San Jose to Vegas. Not a huge travel spot there, and not really a difficult game beating San Jose. So even though it is a back-to-back, I think the spot sets up okay for Minnesota, but I think it also sets up okay for Vegas, as, of course, they're just staying at home. So it's a back-to-back. They're not traveling anywhere, and they've now lost 2 games in a row where I thought they were going to be in an embarrassed mood after losing 4-0 to the New York Islanders. Like, how do you let that stand? Well, they came and they came out like out of that loss, and they played horribly again yesterday, losing to a struggling New York Rangers team. Just terrible. I don't know what that loss was. I mean, the Rangers, normally it would look like, okay, they lost to a good New York Rangers team, but no, the Rangers have been playing so bad that Vegas was a big favorite in that game. They should have won that game, and it looked like a bounce-back spot, and they still didn't do it. So, I mean, are they in a bounce-back spot now? Maybe. I mean, I think the spot sets up such that both teams are going to show up in this game. Vegas is up from minus 175 to minus 180. 64% of tickets, 88% of the cash on them. I mean, I guess Vegas would be the slight lean in that one just because they're coming off such ugly losses that at some point they're going to be angry enough that they got to bounce back here, man. And the odds makers are telling you they're the better team over Minnesota, even though both of these teams have good records. So I guess that would be the slight lean there. Even though Vegas actually, their game yesterday was actually probably the more difficult one. The game I'm actually going to play is going to be on the Pittsburgh Penguins in this one. I mean, you knew once I said I was playing this game, you probably knew what my play was. Pittsburgh on the money line, plus 130. I don't like the spot for Tampa Bay here, man. Both of these teams are in back-to-backs. Tampa is on the road, though. They're only traveling from New Jersey to Pittsburgh, which isn't huge travel. But look at what they've been doing, man. They beat Carolina. They beat Boston, which, I mean, that's still a pretty big game. And you beat Boston, and they crushed them. They went on the road yesterday, and they had to play to overtime against this good New Jersey team, and they wound up losing in overtime. That was a pretty tough game as well, man. It went into overtime, so this Tampa Bay team could be a little bit out of gas after another tough game like that. Now they go on the road to face Pittsburgh, who's sitting at 500 and not really a team a lot of people are paying attention to at this point. With Boston up next in 2 days, I know Boston has hit a real slide as well, but Boston has at least an above 500 team, which may draw Tampa's attention a little bit more, even though they did beat Boston not that long ago. But I like how this sets up for Pittsburgh, man. And Tampa having to play that overtime game against New Jersey yesterday, it's going to be difficult to turn around right away and play again. And my guess right now, as far as the starting goalie projections, is that Vasilevsky is not going to be in net for this one because he played 3 straight games, and it's a back-to-back. So Tampa may be resting Vasilevsky here, and he is obviously their better goaltender. So you may be getting the lesser of the Tampa Bay goalies in this one too. And even if they do wind up playing him, he'll be a little bit tired, I think, because they played yesterday. He played yesterday as well. So that's the case there. So I expect it's probably going to be Johansson, their second-string goalie in net here. So that should help the Pittsburgh play a little bit in this one as well. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, they lost 5-0 yesterday to Ottawa, and that was the game I played Ottawa in that game. I mean, I thought it was a letdown spot for Pittsburgh, man. I mean, they just came off beating Edmonton, and they had this big game against Tampa coming up today, so I thought it was a bad spot. They lost 5-0, man, against Ottawa. So this looks like a bounce-back spot to me for Pittsburgh. Even though, yeah, it is also a back-to-back. Tampa's in a back-to-back with travel. At least Pittsburgh is in a back-to-back and staying at home. Tampa, both teams are playing 3 games in 4 days as well. But for Pittsburgh, they're all at home. And Pittsburgh, after such a horrific loss yesterday, I think they were looking ahead to this game. I think they got caught. It was a bad spot. I won on Ottawa yesterday in that one. I think Pittsburgh's going to turn it around in this one and show up and play a good game in this one. I think it's worth taking a shot on the money line here. Underdog at home in a good spot. Yeah, give it to me, baby. I'm pretty fly for a white guy, some might say. Pittsburgh also looks like probably they're going to have Jari in net for this one, which I don't really even think that's much of a downgrade from Nedeljkovic. Neither one of them have been very good this year, so I don't really care which goaltender it is. It actually might be better if it's Jari, however you pronounce it, in net here, because Nedeljkovic played yesterday, so he's going to be tired. So it's like, if you have a choice between 2 pretty bad goaltenders, yeah, you probably want the more rested one at least. So we'll see what they do, but it might be Jari in that one. Hopefully it's not a jarring experience in this game. I always make that joke when I'm talking about him. Tampa's up from -140 to -145, but they have 61% of the tickets on them, and it looks like 57% of the cash on Pittsburgh, at least for now. A lot of times these percentages on these hockey games move around a lot, though, because there's less of an amount of tickets on this, because public bettors don't bet hockey anywhere near as much as some of these other games, especially during the NFL playoffs. So, but that's the situation there. That's the play I like. Pittsburgh plus 130 on the money line. Now we'll go to NBA. NBA, we got a couple of big games here. Nuggets and Mavericks on one of the first games up. Nuggets are up from 4 to 5.5 on the road, with 60% of the cash on them and 57% of tickets on the Mavericks. So public looks like they're still thinking that this is like a competitive matchup, even though Luka is out for the Mavs. Their public looks like they're still thinking, well, this looks like way too many points to get with the Mavs at home. And I'm not so sure that that's true. I mean, Luka obviously is a huge component for them. Denver, yeah, I mean, it is. They are having to go out on the road for this, but it looks like a good spot for Denver to me, because they just were kind of on a roll, winning a couple of games at home, beating Brooklyn. Nobody cares about that. That's just going to continue your momentum going out on the road. Now it's the first of a 2-game set at Dallas. Starting a road trip, you do tend to be focused and want to start that road trip off well. Obviously, you're going to be focused against the team that won the conference last year, coming off an easy win over Brooklyn to just give you momentum going out into this one. I do think Denver is in the positive spot here. Dallas isn't exactly in a bad spot either. Sitting at home, they've had one extra day rest here. I don't think that's going to disrupt their momentum, though. It's only one extra day rest. Obviously, they're going to show up as well for a game with Denver coming into their place. They're coming off a win over Portland that was not very impressive. So both teams look like they're actually in fairly good spots in this one. So I'm not going to have anything to do with that game. Milwaukee and the New York Knicks is a pretty interesting one. I lost on the Knicks, I think, in their last game. I thought they were going to show up for this game against Oklahoma City. And Karl-Anthony Towns actually wound up playing in that game, which I thought he was going to be injured for it. I expected him to not play. And I'm pretty sure he was in there. I think he played in the game. And they still got blasted in the game. So that was just bad overall for me. So Knicks probably, they look to me like they're in a bounce back spot here, man. I mean, even though Oklahoma City, very tough opponent, but when you lose by over 20 points on your own floor to anybody, you're going to want to bounce back from that, man. In Milwaukee, yeah, I mean, they're not really coming off of anything that substantial. Well, they did beat Orlando. Actually, I take that back because Orlando had Banchero back in that game. What am I thinking? I was thinking Orlando was just that husk of an Orlando team, but they had their best player back in that one. That was the reverse injured player spot where Banchero was back there. So that was a big win for Milwaukee. Now they have to go up the East Coast with one day off from Florida up to New York. Yeah, I mean, I would prefer the Knicks in this game. I think it's a better spot for the Knicks. They're up from 4 to 4.5 with 82% of the cash on them. 66% of the tickets are on the Bucks side. So the public looks like they're thinking this is a competitive matchup. They still don't trust the Knicks. They don't like these teams that play more defensive than offensive. But I like the Knicks in that one. And the public is recency biased too. And they see like a hot Milwaukee team right now who beat Banchero in their last game. And the Knicks, excuse me, got crushed in their last game. So they don't want anything to do with the Knicks there. But the Knicks are still one of the top teams in the NBA, man. Just if you look at power ratings, whatever, and how they get lined, they're only slightly better than Milwaukee, but better enough that I believe that this price actually looks a little bit low to me on the Knicks, in my opinion. So that's the way that I would lean in that one. First play up is the Chicago Bulls +4, which hopefully won't be bullshit. I'm going to fade Sacramento, man. Even though I know Sacramento has not lost since they fired their coach. They've been really hot. They fired their coach, and they've won every game since then, 6 games in a row, which they should have lost to Miami, by the way. I'm bitter about that one. Miami blew like a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter in that one, and a 20-point second-half lead. Thanks, Miami. And I thought they were going to do it again last night, but they didn't. Thank God. Sacramento, I apologize. I should have probably played them in the fired coach spot, that's something that I look for. When a team fires their coach and they're really struggling, a lot of times it tends to spark the team and shake things up, at least in that first game. And they did win that game against Dallas, so maybe I should have jumped in on that. I was not paying enough attention to that. Sacramento before that had lost so many games. Like, they were favored in, I think, pretty much every one of these games at home. Maybe not the Denver one, but all the other ones, yeah. And they lost every single one of those, so they had to shake something up. And since then, yeah, it's not like they've been beating cupcakes here either. They beat Dallas, although it was the Luka-less Dallas, I think, back then, which, I mean, he's still out now, but I'm pretty sure he was already out then. Philadelphia was like a more complete Philadelphia team, and they did that. Memphis may have been without Morant, though, in that one. And the Golden State, I mean, I think that was a complete Golden State team in that one, and they blasted them. They had that huge comeback against Miami, although Miami was Butlerless. And then they went in and they beat my Celtics and blew them away. And you know what I say, man. I know the Boston Celtics, and that spot for the Celtics, that was a spot to fade the Celtics, and I did. Sacramento came into that game still on fire, and they had extra days off. They were starting a road trip. You know, I always say you start a road trip, it's a focus spot. Boston was in the reverse of that. Boston was returning home from a pretty difficult trip out west where they were very successful and won 3 out of 4 against Minnesota, Houston, and Denver, and only lost to Oklahoma City. Very nice trip for the Celtics. I was like, this is a bad spot for the Celtics in the return home spot. I think they're going to think this is going to be easy. They're going to be distracted because it's the return home spot. You know, you have to get back to family life and whatever. And I did not expect Sacramento to blow them out by almost 20 points. I didn't even expect Sacramento to win outright. I mean, I took Sacramento plus 11 or 12 or whatever it was. The line actually moved up a little bit because Fox was actually out in the game for Sacramento as well. So it turned into a little bit of an injured player spot as well for Sacramento. I'm pretty sure Fox did not play in that game, and they still won by a ton. Horrible performance from the Celtics. Again, I mean, I'll take the money line cash on that one. All I needed was Sacramento to come within that huge number, and they more than did that. Celtics were winning a lot of the game, but the Celtics never could get up by margin. It was a wire-to-wire Sacramento cover. But then the Celtics, I don't know how they played this badly in the fourth quarter, man, because they were still winning the game. It was like, okay, well, the Celtics are going to win this game, but they're not even going to come close to covering. And, oh, boy, they had a bad fourth quarter in that game. Sacramento completely out-rebounded them. Celtics had a ton of turnovers, shot a horrible three-point percentage. You know the Celtics. And this is going to play into my other play, by the way, as well. So remember what I'm saying about this one. The Celtics, they live and die by the three-pointer, and the three-pointer was not going down in that game for them. 26.8 is insanely low. Celtics are one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA, and they take a ton of them, and when they're not going down, the Celtics go down pretty much, and that's what happened there. That was part of the reason why, at least. The Celtics they really went completely cold from three. Again, Fox was out for the Kings in this one. So where am I going with this? Well, I'm playing on both these teams' games today, but Sacramento, yeah, they were without Fox, De'Aaron Fox, who was their best player. Is he going to be back in this game? We got to look and see if he is. So Sacramento, but either way, they're coming off such a massive, massive win in that game where they caught Boston in a bad spot and they blew out the Boston Celtics, the returning champs, and now they have to go and play the Chicago Bulls for a second straight road game, and they got Milwaukee up next, who I think is a team that's going to draw more of your focus as well. The Bucks, one of the better teams in the conference. Chicago is not. So I think this is a huge letdown spot, but also a sandwich spot looking ahead to Milwaukee. So I like the Bulls in this game, man. And the public maybe recency bias here and I think that it looks pretty easy to play Sacramento here, laying not a huge price on the road here against a below 500 Chicago Bulls team. But remember, this Bulls team, they've been able to step it up against some of the better teams in the NBA, man. They beat my Boston Celtics on the road when I was in attendance. They beat the New York Knicks at home pretty recently. They beat San Antonio. It was not really that bad. I mean, this Chicago team, when they show up, they can definitely compete with basically anybody. So certainly they can compete with the Sacramento Kings. Bulls are just sitting at home, and they won by a lot in their last game, but it was against Washington. So even though you win by 30-something points, I don't think it winds up being a letdown spot or anything like that when you beat Washington. If you beat a good team and you smack them down like that, yeah, you're going to be in a letdown spot. But against one of the worst teams in the NBA, I think you're going to just keep going. I think it's just momentum. You're just going to roll into the next game and focus on the next game. So I like Chicago. I think it's a really bad spot for the Kings. This is going up even further, it looks like. It's gone up from 3 through the 4 with juice now. Might be able to grab 4.5 with the Bulls on this one. I'll have to look and see what I can get on this one. 71% of the tickets are on the Kings. Like I said, public coming in on the Kings. 58% of the cash, however, on the Chicago Bulls. Again, give me the points with the Chicago Bulls in this one. Bad spot for the Kings. That's play number one. You already know what my other play is going to be. Yeah, brutal loss to Texas Tech. That is true, Matthew. Shout out to me with the fire department one. Thank you, sir. That was I forget what my tweet was. Something about the number of genders in LA. Andrew, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. I'm not really huge into boxing and MMA. Occasionally I'll watch it, and I'll have like very sporadic bets on them, but it's very, very rare. Maybe like 1 or 2 a year. I like it. I just have never really gotten into it. That's cool. Yeah, Tyson Holyfield. Which one was that? Was that the bitten ear fight, or was that one of the other fights between the two? And the ear bite fight was, everybody knew about that fight. Like everybody was talking about it. Of course, I remember that from back in the day when I was a kid when that happened. 40 years. You're old, sir. Don't reveal your age on here, man. You look younger than you are. So, all right, let's and then the other game right up next, man. These games are. Well, one is at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. The other is at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to play on my Boston Celtics this time. I'm going to lay the points of the Celtics. I know it's not my style really to lay huge prices, but with one of the best teams in the NBA in an advantageous spot against a really weak opponent, or a pretty weak opponent at least, I like to do that. I'm going to lay the points of the Celtics here, man. I actually think maybe there's a little bit of value in doing so. Celtics with double-digit losses now. They haven't been good, but you know that I've made money laying points of the Celtics in spots where they're in bounce-back spots coming off a really embarrassing loss, and they bounce back and they play really well in the next game. They especially do it on the road. So I think I've won a couple of times where they did that, right? I forget which games they were. I think it was the Indiana game. I think I won on that one. That one was at home, and then after they lost to Chicago at home, they turned around and smacked Chicago right away in that revenge spot. So I played the Celtics. I laid big spreads with the Celtics in both of those games. Hit them both. Went 2-0. I think this is another spot where the Celtics are going to win in a blowout. This is a very advantageous spot just in general. When a team returns home from a road trip and they have a horrific performance in that return home, like I said, it's a distracted spot. It's a bad spot. And if the team plays real bad in that first game, that tends to like extra focus them in the next game. It tends to more than refocus them in the next game. Plus, it's a 2-game homestand before they go out on the road again. So you're not going to want to go 0-2 on this road trip, man. So I think, again, you're going to see an angry Celtics in bounce back mode. If the Celtics focus, they can easily win by margin here. And I think that's going to be the case. I mean, that was probably their worst loss of the entire season, man. I mean, that was incredible. I don't know how that even happened. And at least I won money on that one against my Boston Celtics. As I've been saying, the Boston Celtics are like my lover, man. Like, I know exactly what their next move is going to be. I can anticipate them. It's like I'm in bed with them, man. And the Celtics, they know what I like and they know what I don't like, man. And this is what I like right here. Give it to me, Celtics. Give it to me, baby. Give it to me right now. Celtics are going to win this game by margin, man. That is my opinion. It's a huge bounce back spot for them. I know the Celtics are probably going to have the public action in this one as well. I mean, it's the Boston Celtics, so of course they are, but they're already up from 14.5 to 15 now. 89% of the tickets are on them. I don't even care. 92% of the cash coming in on them. I think it's going to be a situation where the public just happens to be correct in this one. Broken clock public here in this one. I mean, the Celtics are always going to be public. They were public in those other 2 games. I played them too, but more of the cash came in on them as well. It was an advantageous spot for them. It is certainly in this one. I mean, Toronto is certainly not a look-ahead spot either, so they're going to be focused here. New Orleans, I know they've been getting their pieces back. So New Orleans, yeah, they're not as bad as their record looks. Their record is ugly, real bad. But, I mean, they've been playing with injuries all year. But most of their guys are back now, so they just came off beating the Philadelphia 76ers. McCollum is back. I think Zion Williamson is out again, though, because he didn't play in this game. DeJounte Murray is back. But actually, New Orleans, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe they can't get healthy because it looks like Zion was out again in this game. I don't see Brandon Ingram here, and I don't see Trey Murphy, the third. So where the hell are these guys? And Philadelphia was actually without Joel Embiid in this game, but they did have Paul George, and he had a really good game in that one. I think, did he triple? No, he didn't triple-double, but he had double-digit rebounds. I think he double-doubled. And Maxey was in there as well. Didn't shoot particularly a great percentage, but Pelicans went in and they upset the 76ers on the road in this one, man. And it was, both teams had some injuries going on in that one, man. So Embiid missed the game. Zion missed the game. So both teams were without their big man. But now New Orleans, they're coming off a huge win like that. That's not really something that they're used to. And now they have to turn around and play a second straight road game in Boston against... I mean, I know New Orleans is going to step up for this game, obviously. They're going to try to beat the Celtics because the Celtics are the returning champs, but I just don't think New Orleans is going to have nearly enough to face the Celtics in a spot where the Celtics are going to be really angry and really focused in this game. So I don't think so. In New Orleans, again, they're coming off a big road upset win, so they might run out of steam a little bit coming into this game too. I think it's bad for New Orleans. You got to look at the injury situation here. Celtics, of course, by the way, they were... I was going to say I thought they were without somebody in their last game too, but I don't think that's true. Celtics were without Jaylen Brown in one of their recent games, but it wasn't that one. Looking at the injury report in this game, whoops, I already just closed it. It looks like Brandon Ingram is not playing in this game. Murray's a game-time decision, so he probably is playing with them. What's the deal with... So are we looking at a Pelicans team that's going to be without Zion and without... who else did I say? Trey Murphy? Are they both out still? It's so hard to keep track of all these injuries, man. Zion is suspended. Okay, yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. Zion didn't play because he's suspended. He's not injured. Just like Joel Embiid, man. He comes back and he gets suspended. I actually think Zion is a much better dude than Joel Embiid, though I think Embiid is a moron in a head case. But I don't know. Zion, I don't know. But it looks like violation of team policies. Oh, he was suspended for 1 game, so he is going to play in this game for repeated lateness. But I don't even know, man. I mean, whatever. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're Zion Williamson and you're like supposed to be one of these like top players in the NBA, or one of the better players in the NBA, the best player on your team, and your team is this much ass this late into the season. I mean, I don't know. I might give him a pass for being late here, man. It's like, you got to motivate this guy. But then again, it looks like the Pelicans are struggling a little bit. And Zion was out in that game, and they won without him. So that was almost like an injured player theory spot. It was like a suspended spot. So they played well with him not there. They stepped up. Now with him back, they might actually regress a little bit and take a step back because they're going to be like, oh, he's back, so we don't have to try as hard or whatever. And maybe the team doesn't actually like him for all his lateness and stuff. Maybe the team's kind of angry with him. So this is crazy, man. So Zion will be back in this one. I believe Trey Murphy is actually out still. But it will be most of the guys will be back for New Orleans. Then McCollum is there. Obviously, he's been playing for a while now. Zion will be back from the suspension of this one. It's the reverse suspended player theory in this one. And then Brandon Ingram looks like did I say he's out for this one? I think he is out for this one. Whatever the case is, I don't even care. Play the Boston Celtics minus 14.5. Let's go, baby. Nate, what's up? Yeah, in bed with 15 black men. I'm in bed with the entire Boston Celtics team. Well, it's the Celtics, so it's not 15 black men. It's only half that. You know how many white guys the Celtics always have, man? Dude, the Celtics, I love it. They have so many white guys. It's crazy. And I don't mean Derek White just because his name is White. They got, look at the Celtics bench. They got Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard. They got Porzingis as a starter. They got Luke Cornett. They got so many white guys on this team, man. I like it. It's like in the movie Celtic Pride, Lewis Scott, Damon Wayans' character, the jazz player there. If you haven't seen Celtic Pride, by the way, I'm in it as an extra when I was like 10 or 11 years old. Very hard to find me there, but I went with my father. We showed up at the old Boston Garden, kid, before they tore it down. Fun experience. It's an underrated movie, man. I mean, it's just so stupid. It's retarded, kid, but it is really funny. I think it's hilarious. Basically, these two crazed Boston fans during the NBA Finals decide to kidnap the star player of the Utah Jazz, who is the Celtics' opponent, to try to help the Celtics win. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But in that movie, they actually accidentally kidnap him because their plan is to get him drunk just so that he can't perform the next day, and then everything escalates. But in the point where they're getting him drunk at the Roxy, which is a real spot, they actually filmed it there in Boston. It's now the Royale in Boston on Tremont Street there, kid. Or a lot of people call it Tremont. I call it Tremont, man. I don't know. Does that make me not a Bostonian anymore? I don't know. But they're getting Lewis Scott drunk at that place, and he gets wasted. And at one point, this is huge tangent, man, but I'm getting back to it, to the whiteness. Because it's the whole joke that the Celtics have so many white players all the time. He's like drinking, he's making this like green, like drink at the bar, like doing whatever, because they have access to the bar, because Dan Aykroyd and Daniel Stern, the Celtics fans there, they know the guys that run the bar, so they just have access to the bar late at night, and they're making all these crazy drinks. Damon Wayans, Lewis Scott's making this drink that's this huge green drink, and he's like, I'm going to call this next drink the Boston Celtics. It's sweet because it's white. I mean, I'm like, yeah, that's actually true because the Celtics are a white team, man. So I'm going with the white man's team. It's white supremacy, Boston Celtics. Give me that one, and then I don't even know what else to say about this. Philadelphia, Orlando. I mean, I know that's a game between two teams that can be good at any given time. Magic down from 2-1, 52% of tickets on, 60% of cash on the Sixers. Market read looks like some money is coming in on the Sixers. This is a spot where I think Joel Embiid is still out. I think he's actually hurt. He's not suspended now. He was suspended for a little while, but I think he's hurt again. So he's, I believe, not playing in this game. The Magic have Banchero back. It looks like Suggs is still not coming back for the Magic, so they're still without Suggs and Wagner. Again, this is a game where you really got to pay attention to the injury report in this one. I think I just hit basically the most key players in that one. So that's a game I don't want to touch. Again, too many moving parts there. And that's actually it. That's going to do it for me, except go watch my NFL show, man, because I broke down all the NFL playoffs. I know I'm not ignoring it. We have NFL playoffs today. We can do a final market read here, which I forgot to do yesterday, although my first play of the weekend won. Nice and easy. Houston Texans, baby, +3. Won outright. There we go. I talked about all three of these games on my NFL show a couple days ago, Friday night, so go find that show. It's on my channel if you want in-depth analysis on all these games. I gave it to you. And my play today is on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -3. That's the other play I have there. The market's still looking good on that one to me. They're up from 2.5 with juice to 3. Still sitting at 3. It looks like 3 with reduced juice, so you might even be able to actually get 2.5 still on them. I think the public slightly likes the Commanders in this one, the Redskins. 52% of tickets on Bucks and 61% of the cash on the Buccaneers. So basically my analysis was Washington, the only playoff team that they've beaten this year was the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was without Jalen Hurts when they pulled off that win. So I don't trust Washington stepping up in class like this, even though I know it is revenge because we know the Buccaneers beat them in week 1, and these teams are different now. Washington's better than we thought they were then. And the Buccaneers do have one really key injury still, which is Godwin, and a couple of defensive injuries, but still, Washington has one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So even if the Bucs pass defense has some issues, they're still the better defense out of the two. The Buccaneers can absolutely run the ball. They have a much better balance, much more balanced offense. So even though Washington is prolific offensively with Jaden Daniels in there, they have not been able to get the rushing attack going. The Buccaneers certainly have and should be able to run it a lot against this weak Washington rush defense. I like Tampa for all these reasons, and Tampa has way more experience. You have a rookie quarterback on Washington, a Washington team that hasn't been here in a decade, up against a team that was literally here last year and won a playoff game here last year, just like Houston did. That was part of my analysis with Houston. And Houston was the team that the teams wanted to play in that last week. That was the narrative. Oh, these teams want to avoid Baltimore. They want to play Houston instead. Well, the same thing was kind of going on in the NFC. And you saw how that worked out with Houston yesterday. Houston was playing extra motivated because of that, because the teams wanted to play them. They were being totally disrespected. And I think the Buccaneers are the team that are being a little bit disrespected here because the teams were saying, oh, we'd rather play the Buccaneers than the Eagles. So, of course, Tampa actually wound up getting into the 3rd seed because of the way it worked out with the Rams losing to Seattle and whatever. But that was the thing. Like these teams wanted to either play the Rams or the Buccaneers and avoid the Eagles. So it's like, okay, you wanted to avoid the Eagles? Well, here you go. You get Tampa, and again, Tampa does have some experience. Baker Mayfield, I believe he has multiple playoff wins now. He has a decent amount of playoff games under his belt now. These guys, again, they were here last year, pretty much the same team. They're used to it. They have the experience. And Tampa essentially played a playoff game last week because they needed to win to get in. So they did that against New Orleans, and they didn't play well. So I think that also gives us value here. The public is going to like this high-flying Washington team over this kind of ugly-looking Tampa team because Tampa's been playing a little bit ugly in recent weeks, and they've beaten a lot of bad teams. That's true, and they didn't play well. I think they just were kind of get in and get out mode last week, man. I think they knew, like they figured this is going to be an easy win over this New Orleans team where the entire team is injured. We just have to show up and win this game. I think that's what happened to Tampa last week, and they almost got caught. So now you're going to see a focused Tampa team in this one. I expect that will happen. I expect Tampa will be able to get it done. And then, like I said, I gave out leans on the Bills and the Eagles, slight leans on those. I mean, the lines have moved up. Actually, the Bills have come back down to 8. So a Bills teaser might make sense if you want to tease the Bills down to below a field goal. But I don't know what you would tease it with. Maybe you could tease that with teasing the Rams up to 8.5. I actually wouldn't mind that as a teaser. Tease the Bills down to below 3 to just win the game along with the Rams up to having to cover just the plus 8.5. That one I wouldn't mind a teaser like that. Yeah, and the total, I mean, isn't that high in the Vikings-Rams game either, so that's maybe what I would do there. But yeah, I mean, Washington Buccaneers, I also think the over probably would be the way to look on the total in that one. It's gone up a little bit. I know the public's also going to be on the over in that one, but I mean, you're looking at a weak defense for Washington and two offenses that can definitely do damage in that one. Broncos-Bills, I still lean to the Bills side. I mean, even though the line looks like it's dropped a little bit. Again, you're talking about a rookie quarterback going on the road and Bo Nix, just like Jaden Daniels is doing. The Bills team that has been here and done that multiple times. Bills have a lot more experience doing this, so I think the Bills have a lot of advantages there. And then Packers-Eagles, you got to look at the injury situation here. It looks like everybody's going to be playing, basically, except for Christian Watson, obviously. He is out for the Packers because the Packers, Matt LaFleur, stupidly played all their guys in the final week, which was good for me because I won on the Chicago Bears plus 10 and the money line. But when you're playing guys and it doesn't really matter, that was the Packers trying to avoid playing the Buccaneers, by the way, and they failed to do so, and now they get the Eagles. But I do think the Eagles should win this game. The Packers, I mean, this is a very tough draw for the Packers. They Christian Watson's out, so now they don't have their deep threat anymore. That shouldn't affect the line that much, but Jordan Love got banged up in that game as well. He is going to play. We got to see how healthy these quarterbacks are, man. And then Hurts is seemingly going to play for the Eagles as well, but he's been out for a couple weeks now, so he might start off a little bit rusty because he hasn't been in there for a couple games. So, of course, he's going to be focused, but it might take him a little time to build up to it. So you might see a little bit of a slow start out of the Eagles for that reason. Maybe out of both teams because both quarterbacks are banged up. So the under might actually make sense in this game. And it looks like the public, they want overs. They want overs in every one of these games, especially Packers, Eagles, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts. They want an over in this one. But really, it's going to be about the ground game in this game, man. The total's down from 47 to 46. I think the under actually makes sense in this game as far as the total is concerned. Because you're going to be seeing a lot of Saquon Barkley and Jacobs here, especially the Packers without Watson. That takes away their deep threat. So they're going to have to be doing a lot of more like slow moving of the football. They're going to be using Jacobs to run the ball a lot. But then that's going to be a problem for the Packers because the Eagles' run defense is really good. The Eagles' defense is really good. People are I think they're overlooking the Eagles because the Eagles have mostly played with defense this year. Even though they do have a lot of offensive talent, they have really talented wide receivers too. But of course, we know the Eagles have Saquon Barkley now. That's what they've been doing. They've been running the ball a lot too. So both teams that are going to have run-focused attacks in this game leads me to believe that an under might actually make sense in this game as well. And I do still lean to the Eagles. I mean, the Packers, I know they went on the road and they won last year, so they did have some experience, and they almost won a second game at San Francisco after beating Dallas. So yeah, the Packers did get some experience, even though that was Jordan Love's first foray into playing in the playoffs, I believe, and they did really well. So yeah, not every guy who's new to the NFL is going to struggle once they get into the playoffs for the first time. Although Love, at least, he was not a rookie at the very least, I don't think. I think he at least had one. How many years did he have under his belt since they drafted him? 1 or 2? So there was that. So these other guys are actually rookies that I just talked about. But yeah, the Packers, they have some experience doing this, but obviously the Eagles, these guys have a ton of experience. I know Barkley wasn't there, but this team basically is the same team that we've had the last few years. They made the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they bowed out early last year. They just limped into the playoffs and just had too many injuries, man. So I think the Eagles are going to want to redeem themselves from that. So I do like the Eagles in that one too. And I guess slightly into the over in the Broncos-Bills game. I could see both teams being able to put up points here. I think the Bills, both teams, I think, are a little bit overrated defensively. And both teams are probably going to be throwing the ball quite a bit in this game. And then I know the Bills do actually like to run the ball, but this game is going to basically be about the quarterbacks, I think, in this one. So I wouldn't be shocked if that game went over, but it's up from 44 to 48.5. So public also likes the over in that one. And for all those reasons, that total has gone way, way up. So that's going to do it, man. My plays one more time. NFL, Tampa -3. College basketball, Colorado -1.5. Penn State +2. NBA, Chicago Bulls +4. Boston Celtics, my guys. My lover, the -14.5. And Pittsburgh Penguins in hockey +130. I know, short Sunday card, but I got a lot of plays for a short card. 6 plays. Let's get it done. The action starts in like a half hour. There may be some 11 a.m. college basketball as well. I don't even know. Sometimes there is. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Let's have a good one. Let's get some wins this time. Yeah, that's going to do it. I'm Tower Gang Tone on Twitter. Patreon.com/Tower Gang. You can throw us some support for the most offensive, hilarious podcast out there and have some fun with us, man. That's going to do it. I got to eat some food and relax for a little bit for once, and that's going to do it. Happy Sunday, people. Peace out.